Financial Focus, brought to you by NelsonCorp Wealth Management. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Any indices mentioned are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. Registered representative, securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisor representative, Cambridge Investment Research Advisors Incorporated. A registered investment advisor, Cambridge and NelsonCorp Wealth Management are not affiliated. Cambridge does not offer tax advice. Now here's today's Financial Focus program.
First Wednesday of the month, first day of the month.
Yes.
We got Dave Nelson in studio.
Absolutely gorgeous out there, too, coming up the hill here.
Yeah, I saw you walking
fantastic.
up. I was standing outside, and there you are coming around the corner there. Pretty
Exactly.
nice.
Very nice.
You start getting those walks and bike rides in early?
Yeah, I have to do it. It feels great. You know, now you're not doing it in the pitch black. It's kind of nice as far as to be able to go out. Got a different dog. I used to have two Airedales, and we would put in roughly 2 miles as far as every morning, and then I would go do other stuff as far as bike ride or whatever. And now I've got a golden doodle, I guess it's called, and about 35 pounds. He's not big like the other ones. The Airedales were always 75 to 100 pounds as far as depending on which one. And so it's different, but I just couldn't pick those guys up anymore as far as to get in and out of the vehicle to take them and get trimmed and what have you. And so I said, I got to be realistic. So after one lived 18 years, which is just incredible as far as for a big dog. So again, they ate well, and we walked, and I mean, it was a very disciplined approach. Good for me. You know, my wife, are you going to get another dog? No. And then you stop and think about it, and I said, it forces me to get up and get going as far as in the morning, because the dogs are ready to go. So whether I'm not or, ready, it's time to get them out. So anyway, it's good for both of us, I guess.
And it's great to see it. We're hoping that the weather transitions, but we've put up with some rain. Of course, I think we probably needed the rain.
Boy, did we ever. So chatting with some friends as far as up in Minnesota this year, and you've certainly noticed it as far as in the river around us. But Minnesota, up until they got a fairly significant snow at the end of the year, but prior to that, the entire winter, as far as, and this is 2 hours north of Minneapolis, so you would assume lots of snow. They had 7 inches, less than we actually did here. So again, and it's showing up, as I said, in the river as far as the volume coming through here. And so these rains are absolutely crucial, and I'm sure the farmers are really pleased as far as to see some of that warming up and some rain. Good combination as far as crops are concerned.
Visiting with Dave Nelson. So kind of a transition period for the tax people down there at NelsonCorp, but they keep busy year-round. I mean, it's not tax work, it's tax planning now.
Yeah, exactly. Very much so. And as I left down there, the bulk of the people as far as in the office were sitting in, and they're talking Medicare. And so the Medicare, so the accounting people, as far as the advisors, as far as on my side, the wealth management side, talking Medicare and the importance of it, and again, just some of the changes that are coming down the pike. Increase is pretty significant as far as from United Healthcare and others that are bumping rates and what have you, and it's just so crucial. So the off season, if you say that it's an off season like you were implying there, basically centers around, again, pulling out, looking at clients' tax returns, saying what can we do as far as today, as far as to help impact tomorrow. And it's one of the things that I bring up oftentimes as far as when I'm chatting with people. So we had a whole bunch of new people as far as this past year that came in, have become clients. And one of the first questions out of my mouth is, how often does your financial advisor that you're currently working with get together as far as with your accounting people? And typically you get this stare, and it just, I don't think they ever have. It's kind of a hesitation and don't really want to vocalize it. But I said, what's really important for people to get is that every decision that we make financially today is going to be impacted either today or tomorrow as far as on your tax return. The example is, if a person puts money into a IRA, let's say, and they take the deduction, so that's going to impact the tax return today, but it's also going to impact the tax return tomorrow when you take the money out and you have to pay taxes on it. So it's weighing all that stuff out and not knowing what markets are going to do, not knowing what tax tables are going to look like in 2 years or 5 years or 20 years for that matter, makes the planning so important. but it makes it difficult as well because, again, you can't give people oftentimes a very black and white. You can say, here's what's seems to be the correct answer, but we really don't know for sure, obviously because of the variables that I just mentioned.
I think that was such a great move on your part because, I mean, what you do as a financial advisor, you have so much to learn and you're regulated. And then the tax people, the same thing. Those tax laws change constantly, so they are keeping up to date on that side of things.
Yes. Crucial as you said, as far as to pull the two together, as far as to make these decisions. And yes, for years we tried to put this together, and I've had clients come in and say, more or less, how long have you had it here? And, was this part of the big plan? I said, when we started back 40 years ago, give or take, yes, it made sense as far as to pull this together. But because of the complexity that you just brought up, the laws that wouldn't allow certain things to take place, it took us decades, not years, but decades as far as to pull this off. So give or take the last 20 years, we've had this system in place where, again, you've got, in my opinion, both sides of the fence as far as the tax side and the money management side. And we've been able to get rid of that fence and again, make this an informed decision versus a guess. And oftentimes, again, when we chat with clients, we say, well, the decision you made to put money into the IRA versus not doing it in the deduct and going into the Roth, was a guess. And again, we want informed guesses. We don't want just guesses. And so it's crucial. And again, the last piece of the puzzle as far as, and people say as far as, again, who's a typical person? Well, I think by now it's pretty obvious that we work with people pretty much 50 and up is the bulk of the people that we can really impact. If somebody's 30 years old, we've got plenty of those that we work with, but the value that we can bring to the table there isn't nearly as significant as it is as far as for 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old individuals, and that's the sweet spot as far as for us. So these rules, these changes, all of this stuff, again, it's staying informed. Mike S. in the office, as we call him, Mike Staggerwalt, he's the one that's overseeing as far as the bulk of the Medicare type stuff. So again, he's running a meeting down there. He's been on a lot of recent gatherings as far as, I guess I'd call them kind of basically where you're on a call. It's not face to face. But some new rules that have been implemented as far as in the Medicare space and walking through with everybody. And I'm sitting there, and I'm not kidding. My head is spinning as I'm hearing this stuff. N versus G plan versus this versus that. And and this one you can't convert, this one you can. Oh, my goodness. So anyway, the importance of having specialists, and certainly that's an important part of our business model.
Again, visiting with Dave Nelson, we get to go to the bottom of the hour. Before we take the break for the weather, I was just thinking about this. I mean, you said 40 years.
Yes.
So when you first
I'm an
started,
old guy.
Well, so am I. May 15th will be my 48th year at KROS. So I'm an older guy.
Very nice. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But when you first started, you had this certain role. But now that you've taken on so many other employees, so many other services, what is your role right now, Dave Nelson?
So my role, I spent a whole bunch of money and went to a coach in Canada, Toronto, Canada. His name is Dan Sullivan. And Dan Sullivan, his business is called Strategic Coach. And so it's three meetings, very expensive meetings, and you come up and see me. This is up in Toronto. And this guy basically slaps you around for 8 hours and telling you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. And what came out of that is that you, like every other person on the planet, are really good at a couple things. You just have to figure out what those couple things are, and you have to offload. Some of the stuff that you don't like, that you're not good at, there's other people, that's their specialty. They're really good at that. You have to figure that out. So I learned that in addition to several other things. So I came back and I said, what I need to do is to really focus on the interaction with clients. I think I have a kind of unique skill to be able to take some of this stuff and try to simplify it. This is not simple stuff, but to try to make it where the individual across the table from me can understand it. So that was a really important part. And the other part of it is basically the money management side of it. And I think I have, a unique skill there as far as to be able to help make some of these decisions as far as helping clients make more money without a whole bunch of risk. What I was horrible about is managing people. So I offloaded that early on. I'm not good at that. What I'm terrible at, as far as in addition to that, is again, setting schedules and following through with that. So I got people that basically smack me alongside the head on a regular basis. You're supposed to be here, you're supposed to be there. Like today, this is a good example. I almost was late as far as getting up here. So it's figuring that out, and that isn't just me. That's everybody out there. Anybody in business, what have you, anybody as far as that has a job, that has kids, just figure out the two things that you're really, really good at, and try to find somebody else that's good at the other things, that enjoy the other things. He asked me a question. I know we're tight here.
You're fine.
But he asked me a question concerning, how much of your daily work, would you say as far as that really, really bugs you? And I said, well, I don't know for sure, but I'll say 10, 20%. He said, how often do you think about retirement? So I was probably 40 at the time, and I said, constantly. And he looked at me and he says, why is that? I said, because of this stuff here that I hate. I'm not good at it, and I hate it. Well, again, it came back to you got to find somebody that's good at that really digs that. And we've got two people in particular in the office that are really good at that other stuff that I'm not. And I like being in front of a group. I love doing stuff like this as far as here, where most people, this isn't their cup of tea. They don't want a microphone in their face. They don't want to be speaking in front of a group of a couple hundred people or a couple thousand people for that matter. So anyway, it's finding that and putting together that team, as you said. Yeah. David just happens to be the one out in front, ride on the wagon, but I got a lot of good horses as far as out in front of me here that are basically helping us get to where we want to get, and where we want to get is to bring great value as far as to the individuals that we work with.
Great explanation. And I would imagine trying to find those people to fit those roles isn't necessarily easy at times.
It isn't. And when you do, you're lucky. And we are really lucky. We've got one gal, again, she would be terrified to be here today, but man, is she good as far as a couple other things that are really important to making the wheels go round and round in the office.
All right, again, visiting with Dave Nelson. We'll continue a break with the weather, brought to you by Electronics.
We're tracking a fairly decent-looking Wednesday ahead of us. Partly cloudy skies, a little less in the way of wind, and temperatures reaching the mid-70s for us this afternoon. However, it turns a little more active tonight. We'll be tracking some showers late with increasing clouds and lows settling into the mid-50s. With your Storm Track 8 forecast, I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzky.
Sunshine, 62 degrees. We have west winds. Our update brought to you by Electronics.
Electronics Incorporated, the area's largest communications and alarm systems company, where their number one goal is customer service. Their quality work in a timely manner keeps you connected to the world. Electronics technicians realize that communication is the key to your company's productivity and profit. Their professional team has decades of experience that bring you the best possible service. Electronics Incorporated, 522 North 2nd Street, Clinton, or go to electronicsinc.com.
Well, we get to continue now with Dave Nelson to the bottom of the hour. Very interesting when you're talking about, you saw this gentleman, you were up there in Toronto, Canada, trying to figure out what you need to do to make things better for NelsonCorp Wealth Management, and now you're implementing it. So, but what did you really take from that, Dave?
So coming back, so you get all these great ideas. So it's 3 different meetings, and this was over a year. So it wasn't 3 consecutive days. So it was 3 separate meetings. And so you'd get an assignment as far as pretty much. So I'm telling him all my woes, the good things, the bad things, whatever. So we formulate essentially a plan. So the plan is there. Now I got to go back and I got to implement. But I got to implement, in addition, all the other responsibilities that I have as far as meeting with clients, et cetera, et cetera. So that was very difficult. And again, during this period of time, my little hobby of full-time job coaching a varsity basketball team as well. So it was a busy time, but a really important time. So once we got back, now it's a matter of, okay, what's the first step that I had to make? And the first step that I had to make is get rid of overseeing the office, because, again, I'm not very good at that. It's not my skill set by any stretch of the imagination. So Brad Fritz was fairly new as far as in our operation at that point in time, and I said, it's time. He would communicate with people in a much more short, concise way than me, and he was much more direct than I was. And we made the determination that was a good fit as far as for him. It actually helped him too because he was fairly new in this business, so he could supplement his income by managing the office while at the same time meeting as far as with his clients. So that was step one, and that was probably the biggest and the toughest decision. Then it's a matter of, okay, what else do I need to offload? And for me, I'm really good. I can walk into a meeting and I can go through as far as with the client as far as what they need to do. But afterwards, I used to have Kathy that worked with me for 25 years, I believe it was. She would literally meet me at the door and say, what did you just promise those people we would do? Because I had great intentions, but I'd walk out of there and I'm walking into another meeting and I'd forget maybe about a third of what I just went through. So we would record it on the spot. She's taking notes as I'm recording. And so anyway, she would then basically make sure that stuff took place. Since then, I mean, we've added multiple people as far as to the meetings. So we have just about every meeting that I run, I have somebody sitting with me as far as taking notes, what have you, as far as making sure that stuff gets taken care of. It's a way for them to learn, one, and number two, it's just better as far as for clients. I told people for years this, and I never really believed it. I really didn't. But I said, I travel a lot. And I said, if something were to happen to me and a plane went down, something like that, I want you to have somebody else that isn't brand new to you, that you've met before. So again, for a while, that was Brad. Then it was maybe Nate. I've had multiple people as far as that fit into that spot. Little did I know that it wouldn't be a plane crash. It would be my brain basically decided to do something that I didn't want it to do back, again, 4 years ago, probably now, 3.5, 4 years ago. And my wonderful doctors took care of me out in Iowa City, but that was 3 weeks out there, and then it was months sitting at home trying to recover as far as from this. So, and I've told this to clients, and it's I smile when I tell them this. I said, the good news is that none of the clients really knew that I was gone, other than if they saw it in the paper or something that I wasn't coaching as far as it was in there. Coach Nelson missed another game, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the good news. The bad news of this is nobody really missed me. So I tell that story to clients. I said, things ran beautifully without me here. So, I'm starting to question, am I even needed anymore? So, but anyway, it's having that great team. And right now it's Jake pretty much oversees the bulk of the office, and he is so good as far as behind the scenes, computers. He does so much tax stuff. He is just so brilliant as far as in what he does. And so anyway, we've got a really fantastic team. The accounting people just don't do only accounting. Again, they're helping us as far as in other areas, helping clients make decisions. And so the team approach has worked. And this guy, I haven't seen him in 20 years probably now, give or take. And he made a huge difference as far as for our office, as well as a lot of the people that we work with as far as in this area.
Well, we got about 8 more minutes left in the program. So, the Fed, are they going to, aren't they going to? How's the market looking? May's supposed to be actually a pretty good month. How's it looking?
Yeah, so it's been, April's been rough. As clients get statements, I'm sure they're going to see as far as that it's been bumpy to say the least. And unfortunately, like the last 12 months, the bumps have been up, not down. This month was down, and down 2, 3, 4%, depending on a person's portfolio. The markets have done a little worse than that, but at the end of the day, so we came into this year with the expectation, most people believed, and I'm talking about, again, informed analysts from Wall Street, that there would all likelihood be 6 rate cuts in this year, 2024. Now, a rate cut typically is going to be 0.25%. So we moved up rapidly, 0.25%. We went from pretty much 0 to 5%. Now we're going to have, give or take, 6 cuts at roughly 0.25% each in 2024. The likelihood of that, and we've been saying day one, I said 3 at best. Now, probably today, the best guess is there won't be any as far as this year. And the market is basically going into a tantrum because of that. And so that's what we've witnessed the last month or so. So I think rate cuts are in the cards maybe next year. This year, maybe 1 rate cut. But once you start getting close to election time, now it becomes a real difficult thing as far as to make changes, as far as without showing favoritism supposedly towards one party or the other. And so it's supposed to be a impartial, non-political type position, but people will do and say what they want to do to help stack the deck as far as their favor. So I think we're going to have some bumps for a while here, Gary. I don't see this disappearing and going away anytime real soon. People just need to hunker down a little bit as far as, and we're going to get through it. We're going to get some cuts. We'll get them next year. When the cuts come, that should be really good news as far as for the market. Now, I want to qualify one last thing before I move on to anything else, and that is if we get 6 rate cuts and we get them fairly rapidly, people shouldn't be cheering. The first 1 or 2, maybe. By the time you get to 4, 5, 6, that's basically saying things aren't so good out there, and the market is basically going to respond accordingly. The stock market, and we probably see a significant sell-off in that environment. So don't be wishing for too many cuts, because if we do get them, it could be and probably will be bad news.
You know, as you were talking, something I was thinking about prior to that, before you made the statement, was it's not political, but it in a sense is. And the Federal Reserve, are they elected, nominated? How did they get to that position?
It depends on the position. So the top position, yes, that the president makes that decision as far as the others basically are appointed. What's interesting is we used to have somebody that was on the Chicago board as far as out in DeWitt. And that person that was on the board, he wasn't a decision maker. He had no vote, but he was as far as part of that team. So it isn't just, they've got all these different locations and somebody that oversees that. And these folks get together as far as on a regular basis to decide, are we going to cut? Are we going to leave it alone, et cetera, et cetera? We got to raise rates. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, that's now being tossed around. Inflation numbers 2-3 days ago, I'm trying to remember exactly, I think it was Monday, came in hotter than expected. And so inflation is maybe back as far as the discussion. If it is, again, maybe the Fed will be contemplating and thinking about to possibly have to increase interest rates. Don't see that happening, but it's being discussed, and people should keep it on the radar as far as that is a possibility. So depending on the position, most of them are appointed, and then they're appointed to a certain period of time, and they can resign intra, but you rarely see that. It's a pretty powerful position, pretty prestigious position, but at the same time, man, you're always being second-guessed. I mean, these people are being second-guessed right now as far as that they need to cut. Well, but then you have this report come out Monday, bottom line saying inflation is hotter than we thought. Holy cow, and the market sells off accordingly.
You know what is interesting? Where do these people come from? Are they like backgrounds like yourself, or bankers, or what are they?
Bankers typically, yes. Like the gentleman in a lot of professors. So these would be big-time professors as far as at various business schools, what have you, that supposedly, know more than the average guy. And in most situations, yes. I know, again, politicians like to act like they have all the answers as far as what should be done. But these people are, again, coming to the table with pretty decent backgrounds as far as in this space, economists, what have you, that again, probably are brighter than anybody as far as that you or I know. And again, making these decisions isn't easy. They're trying to look into the future as far as what's going to happen. They're not basing everything on what already happened, but they're trying to look at what's going to happen. That's not an easy job.
So what kind of tea leaves are they looking at? I mean, what kind of indicates which way they want to go?
There's most of the tools that they use, we use as far as in our office. So there's data points that are out there as far as looking at unemployment, what have you. What's interesting, unemployment, a whole bunch of different data. I mean, I can bore you to tears with a whole bunch of different things, but that being probably number one on the list. And anytime you've had unemployment at 4% or below, has generally been fantastic news as far as for the markets. Well, that's what we've experienced. People talk about the economy stinks. Well, the economy is as hot as it's ever been, pretty much. I mean, you're going back 50-plus years to find numbers like we've had as far as in recent times. Now, part of that, and most of that, is COVID. People forget, and again, a little quick history lesson, and I will make this quick, folks. You'll get the general idea here, and that is coming out of World War II. If you think during World War II, a lot of factories were converted to making no longer refrigerators, but now we're making weapons to help win this war. Well, after the war is over, now we have to bring this stuff back. Well, when that was over, you had this massive desire for people to buy stuff. And so we had runaway inflation during that period of time, very much like COVID when we shut things down. And so it took years as far as to get that under control, and that's what we're experiencing as we speak today. So again, coming back to what these people are looking at, what have you, primarily unemployment would be probably number one. And again, if I had to make a guess, I'm saying we're going to get the cuts next year. We're not going to get any this year.
You know, it is interesting the perception that people have of the economy.
Yes.
As you pointed out, it's good.
Yes.
But some people say, no, it's not.
It's not, exactly. Now, again, part of it is you go to the grocery store and things are up. Now, you tell people that inflation is down dramatically from where it was after COVID. Nobody believes you as far as that. They said, just go to the store and look. And I said, I get it. But basically, it's come down some, but it's moderated. It's not moving up. And again, inflation doesn't just disappear in 10 minutes. Oftentimes, it takes quite a while.
Always fun to have you in studio.
Thanks,
Very
Gary.
important.
Yep.
Enjoy this day.
Yeah, absolutely. You too. Thank you.
Financial Focus is a production of NelsonCorp Wealth Management in Clinton and Davenport. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Any indices mentioned are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. Registered representative, securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated.